Hi everyone and welcome to another video from English A to Z channel. I love teaching and I especially love teaching English. So I hope you will like the videos I am making to help you learn English better. And if you do like these videos, please support me by sharing my videos and subscribing to my channel, English A to Z. You will learn English the best way and I am trying to help you make this happen. So let's make this happen together. Today in our class, we will learn about adjectives, which is another one of the parts of speech in English. Are you excited? So the first thing we will do is to define what an adjective is. I have brought you a definition from the dictionary, from an English dictionary, that tells us that an adjective is a word naming an attribute of a noun, which is, for example, such as the word sweet, red, or technical. You can see that the word sweet is an adjective. It tells you about the quality of a noun. So it gives you the attribute of a noun. If you use it with a noun, at the moment it just tells you about a taste, but if you use it with a noun, it gives you information about that noun, that the noun is sweet. Red is another adjective, which is another example of a word that's showing the state of something or the quality of something. Or technical. Technical is also another adjective, which refers to something that needs a lot of detailed learning in order to know how to do it. For example, a mechanic's job is a technical job. So that's the definition of adjectives there. And to start with, I'm thinking that it's a better way to explain adjectives by giving you some examples. For example, in this page, you see the first sentence is, this is a happy panda. The word happy is one of the adjectives, an adjective that gives you more information about the quality of the panda. So a happy panda, what does a happy panda look like? I have never I've never been able to tell whether a panda is happy or not, but as far as you give them more bamboos to eat or more food, I think they mostly eat bamboos. I think they will be happy. So the word happy is an adjective here that defines panda. Pandas are really cute, by the way. Our teacher is so energetic. So this is another example of an adjective, which is the word energetic, which gives you information about your teacher. So our teacher is so energetic. The next sentence is, I have to finish this boring job. You can see that boring is an adjective that defines the job. Job is a noun. That is a funny joke. So in this sentence, funny is an adjective that gives you information about the word joke. And the last sentence, which is big cows can't run. So big is an adjective that has been used this time in the beginning of the sentence. So I have given you some examples about different positions in a sentence that the adjectives can appear. So you can try this at home and come up with some examples about some other adjectives in a sentence as well. So when do we use adjectives? So here I've explained some of the examples of when we use adjectives. So we use adjectives to give information about the quality of something. And the quality of a noun, for example, if it is good or bad or average or exciting, or beautiful. So that's the examples of quality. And the feelings. So in this category, we can talk about how we feel or how others feel. And how do we do that? We do that by using adjectives in English. So, and also adjectives allow us to give more information about the size of something, whether something is big or small or huge or average size, and so on. The duration of something. So it talks to you about whether it's a long day, a short day, or a short year, or a long video. By the way, this video is not going to be very long, but it will be very useful for you to learn adjectives in this video. So, and also adjectives talk to you about the shape of something. We will have some examples about these ones. For example, quality is good, feeling is happy, as you can see, and the size of something, which is small, for example, and the duration of something. This video is not going to be very long. And the shape of something. So the shape of the earth is round, for example. By the way, they used to think that once upon a time, they used to think that earth is flat, which was proven to be wrong later on. So here are some more examples about the adjectives that gives you more information about the quality of something, the duration of something, the size and color. Please remember that there are other examples of the things that adjectives can give you more information about. So I've just mentioned a couple of these, which is quality, duration, size, and color. The first sentence is, that was a long trip. So the trip is defined by the word long. Long gives information about trip. So if you say that was a trip, it doesn't give much information about how it was. So, and that reminds me that adjective is mostly used to answer the WH questions. For example, how, why, when, where, and what. So another example, I had a delicious lunch. It gives you, the word delicious gives meaning, gives more information about lunch. I miss the blue skies. So the word blue defines the skies, which is blue. So comparative and superlative adjectives. So these are the two most important topics in learning adjectives. When talking about one or two or more than two nouns, we need to know how to compare them. So adjectives are used to compare the nouns together with each other. So in a comparative adjective is used to compare a noun or a group of nouns to another. So for example, there are two persons, one runs really fast and another runs slower. So we compare how fast they run using comparative adjectives. And superlative adjectives. What are superlative adjectives? They are used to compare the quality of a noun to a group of two or more nouns. So we use superlative adjectives to compare between more than two nouns. So we don't use it for one or two nouns, but more than two nouns. So a group of two or more nouns. And so what are the rules for making comparative adjectives? So the first rule is to, well, the first step is for you to decide or to check if the adjective you're using is a one syllable or two syllable or more than two syllables. For one syllable words, we use, for example, if a word is ending with E or R, with E, we add R at the end. For example, close. Close is something near, for example. So close is an adjective, and the comparative form of that would be closer, and the superlative form of that would be closest. That's misspelled in there, but there's an S missing. And if the words are ending with Y, we normally remove Y and add IER at the end. For example, dry, which becomes drier if you compare it, if you make it a comparative adjective, and driest if you make it superlative adjective. And there are more rules that we're going to talk about. So if the word ends with a consonant and a single vowel before it, we double the last consonant and add ER after it to make it comparative adjective. For example, the word thin. Thin has one consonant, which is the letter N. Before that we have a vowel appearing. So in order to make it comparative adjective, we double the consonant and add ER. So it will not be just one N, it will be two N's. So thinner is comparative adjective. Thinnest becomes the superlative adjective, adding EST at the end and doubling the consonant letter. And another example is big. Big is another word which becomes bigger and biggest. And in other cases, which are mostly irregular adjectives, we use, for example, quicker, quick, quicker, quickest. You can see that it doesn't come under the first rule. And another case of these is short. Short is an adjective. If you make it comparative adjective, it becomes shorter. If you make it superlative adjective, it's shortest. So what about two-syllable words? So far we talked about one-syllable words in these slides, but if the adjective that you're using has two syllables, if the word is ending with E, we still add R at the end. For example, polite. Polite is another word with two syllables, so the comparative form of it would become politer, and the superlative form of it would become politest. And the word strange. Strange has two syllables. It has two syllables. The comparative adjectives become stranger. I have forgotten to add the R, but it becomes stranger and strangest. This has to be changed to strangest. I have copied it from the previous slide, which and forgetting to change it. So sorry about that. But if the adjective is ending with y, we remove y and add ier. So heavy, for example, ends with letter y, and we change the y to I and add er at the end. Becomes the comparative form of the adjective. And if we want to make it superlative, we replace the y with iest, so the heaviest. And another example of a two-syllable adjective which ends with y is tiny. Tiny means very small. So to compare that as a comparative form, it becomes tinier. So tinier, and the superlative form of it becomes tiniest. And another example or another rule for making comparative adjectives is when the adjective ends with le or ow, we just add er at the end. For example, narrow. Narrow is something that ends with ow, so we add er at the end, which becomes narrower, and we add est at the end to become superlative, so it's narrowest. And what about something that ends with we? For example, able, which is spelled able, can also be added er at the end. Only actually r, because there is already an e at the end. So we change it to comparative adjective by adding r, ablest, and we add st at the end to make it in superlative form. So what are some examples? This question is simple. This question is the simplest. This is the simplest question. So the first sentence is the normal form of the adjective in a sentence. Sorry, in the second sentence, we have told you which question is the simplest question. And also, we can also say this is the simplest question, or we can say this question is the simplest, or we can also say this question is the simplest of all, which tells you that the question we're talking about is very, very simple, simpler than anything else, any other questions, and the simplest of all. But if you compare two questions, we say question 1 is simpler than question 6, for example. We compare only two nouns using the adjective comparative form. And this is a quiz for you, so quiz time. Yeah, the first form of the word smart is smart. What is the comparative form? And superlative form is smartest. So you have guessed it right. The comparative form is made by adding er at the end. So it becomes smarter. Happy is another word which is in the first form of adjective, and or simple form, you can say. But in order to make it comparative, we remove y and add ier at the end, so it becomes happier, So the students are happier when they leave the classroom and go home. Happiest is the superlative adjective. For example, the student who got the first position in class was the happiest. So wide is another adjective. The comparative form is given. Can you guess what is the superlative form of wide? Yes, you are right. It's widest. We just add st at the end because e is already in the end of the sentence. In the end of the word, the adjective. And another example. In this example, I haven't given you the first form of the adjective. I've given you the second form, or the comparative form, which is luckier, and the superlative form, which is luckiest. Can you guess? Yes, it's lucky. So that was so lucky. And in the last question, which might be a bit difficult for you, I have given you the superlative form of it. So can you guess the first form and this comparative form? Yes, it is bad. And second, or comparative form becomes worse. So bad, worse, the worst. This is an example of one of the irregular adjectives in English that does not follow any rules. You have to memorize them, you have to learn them by heart, as they do not follow any rules. And there are many of them which you will need to memorize. But let's have some more examples. In this example, we have normal form, expensive, comparative form, more expensive, and superlative form is the most expensive. So how do we make if it has a 2-syllable or more syllables? We add in the comparative form, we add more, and in the superlative form, we add most. So the most expensive thing, for example. And another question gives us only the comparative form. Can you guess the first form, the normal form, and also the superlative form? Ambitious is the first form of the adjective. More ambitious is the comparative form. And the superlative form is the most ambitious. So, for example, you can say that competitor made the most ambitious competition. And amazing is another adjective. Can you guess the comparative and superlative form of it? So more amazing, of course, and most amazing. And the rest of it you can try at home. And these are some irregular adjectives that earlier I talked about them. The adjectives that are irregular, they do not follow any rules. You need to memorize them. For example, in this chart we have first form, the basic form, which is good. The comparative form of it becomes better, and the superlative form becomes the best. And the word bad is another adjective that is irregular adjective. So the second form or comparative form of it becomes worse, and the superlative form becomes worst or the worst. And more, and most. You can see that this adjective does not follow the rules. And another example is far. Far is the opposite of near. farther or further becomes the comparative form. There are two different forms of it. Both are correct. Farthest or furthest is the superlative form of the word far. So comparing two nouns, adjectives. So when we compare two nouns or two adjectives, we use then and the comparative form. You are tall, she is taller than you. So she is taller than you. We have used the adjective comparative form and followed by then, the word then, which tells you that how tall you are compared to her. And another sentence, the brighter one is better. For example, you are in a shop and you're looking at different light bulbs to buy. In order to distinguish between them, you're using the second form or comparative form of the adjective. You are quicker than me. So in here, quicker is another form of a comparative form of the adjective quick. Russia is bigger than Thailand. In here, big is the first form and bigger is the comparative form which compares Thailand and Russia. These are two countries that one day I would love to visit. Actually, I have visited Thailand and it's a beautiful country, and I hope to visit Russia sometime in the future. And then I will know if Russia is actually bigger than Thailand. I can actually know that by looking at the map. Comparative to comparing two or more nouns. So when we compare two or more nouns, we use superlative form of an adjective to compare a group of people or someone in a group of people or something in a group of things. For example, here there is an example of rain is cold, snow is colder, ice is the coldest. Yes, so ice is the coldest, which is the superlative form of it. Jets are the fastest planes. So the fastest is the superlative form of fast. We have compared the airplanes here, and we have said that jets are the fastest of them. The driver was the most reliable person to arrive on time. In this example, for example, many people were supposed to arrive, but the driver was the most reliable person to arrive on time. You got the most beautiful handwriting. This is a general comparison. You're comparing your friend, saying that he or she has the most beautiful handwriting amongst anyone you know. So what are some common errors in using adjectives? I come across these errors quite often, that students make some errors using these adjectives in the correct form. So for example, they say more better. They say today's class is more better than yesterday. Or they say my English is becoming more better, which is of course not the correct way of using better, because in this sentence we are using two different adjectives, and we are also using both of them in the second form or the comparative form, which is incorrect. So in order to say that correctly, we say today's class is better than yesterday, not more better than yesterday. And so this remove the first one and use the second one. But if we use more, we can say, I like today's class more than yesterday. So this is a totally different meaning whilst using the word more. So for example, the second mistake, the second error that some students make is they use two adjectives in the superlative form. For example, they say most nicest. This student or my friend is the most nicest person you can imagine. Of course, it's also wrong because we have used incorrect. We have used two superlative forms of the adjective, which is incorrect. Instead, we would say, my friend is the nicest person I know. So, the nicest person I know is correct. And penguins are the cuter of all animals. Here, you can guess that the incorrect adjective is the cuter. Because we have compared penguins to all of the animals, so it's not two animals, we have to use the superlative form of it. So, the cutest of all animals. Penguins are the cutest of all animals is the correct sentence. And etc. You can think of some examples or some errors that you make when using these adjective comparisons and write them down. And as you do, you will not repeat them again, I would say, because it helps you remember them. And another quiz time. So have a look at these questions and we will go through them together in no time. But the first question is, we use comparative when comparing nouns. A, more than three. B, one or other. One to more. Or number C, two or more. So when do we use comparative adjectives? Of course, it is when we use one or more adjectives to compare them. Question 2. Choose the comparative form. Honey is sweet, but sugar is A, sweeter. B, sweet to. C, sweeter. So in this sentence, the C is meant to be sweetest, but the correct answer is A, sweeter. And choose the correct form. English is A, easier. B, more easy. And C, easier than Chinese. So English is easier than Chinese. Correct the following sentence. You speak the more fluent English in our class. So the error here is that more is not used correctly here. Instead, it has to be the most fluent English in our class, because we're comparing someone's English, one of the students' English, to the whole class. You are tallest than Maria. So here you can see that tallest is used incorrectly because it is meant to be taller than Maria, not tallest, because we're comparing two people. And at the end, I thought I would bring some examples from really famous books. These two examples are from a book which you might have heard about it. It is a book written by Jane Austen, which is a famous English or British writer. So these quotes come from her book, which is called Pride and Prejudice. So in one of the pages I read this sentence. Philip's were now productive of the most interesting intelligence. This is a very difficult sentence, but you can say that you can see that the most interesting intelligence is the superlative form that is used in the sentence. And another quote or another part of a sentence from the book Pride and Prejudice was this one: recommended an express to town for one of the most eminent physicians. So you can see that it's a superlative form of adjective. So the most eminent physicians. So eminent is an adjective which you can look it up in the dictionary to know the meaning, but it means someone that is respected or famous. So that was our class for today, and thank you for staying with us, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video to learn more about grammars. In the meantime, bye for now.